Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the first Omen. This is a prequel to the original 1970s classic The Omen, starring Gregory Peck. And it tells the story of a young woman who moves from America to Rome to become a nun. And she slowly starts to discover that the place that she moved into might not be as innocent and holy as she was led to believe, and that they might just be plotting to birth the Antichrist. Walking into this movie, I wasn't really expecting much. In fact, I was kind of dreading it because, well, for a couple of reasons. First off, the original Omen has never really been a movie that I've gotten that much into. I respect it, and I absolutely recognize the impact that it had on horror. The score is fantastic, Gregory Peck is great, but it's just never really been a movie that spoke to me. But also, unfortunately for this movie, came out relatively close to The Exorcist Believer, which was a terrible movie that I did not like whatsoever, and I was expecting more along the vibes of that type of thing. Very low effort, very just, typical studio horror that was churned out really quickly, uses, a old classic name like The Omen to get recognition, to get more people in seats, to get a few more bucks. That being said, I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, and I was absolutely wrong about this movie. This movie was great. It wasn't just good, it was great. I loved this movie so much. And a big reason for that is the lead performance. Nell Free as, the young woman who moves to Rome was mesmerizing in this movie. She was so good. She does a great job at the beginning of playing this kind of very meek, timid character who's obviously been conditioned by the church to behave in a certain type of way. But as the movie progresses and she starts to, uncover the truth about this place that she's living in and more of like the dark, sinister sides to it, she does a really good job at, pushing back and being a bit more rebellious and, challenging authority. And she plays both sides of that absolutely perfectly. And then when you get to the end of the movie where, the big reveal happens, you really feel her devastation. Like you can really buy that this is a character who just had everything that she was brought up to believe ripped away from her. There's a scene near the end of the movie. It's a one-shot, unbroken take of her just acting, and it was some of the best acting I have seen in a very, very long time. It was very reminiscent of this old, weird-as-hell horror movie called Possession, I believe, with Sam Neill. And she was very much channeling the female lead from that movie in the scene, and she absolutely owned it. She was so captivating. And from a technical aspect, the movie very much looks and feels like a movie from the 70s. I believe it was shot on film, and a lot of the techniques that they use in the movie are very reminiscent of like old Hollywood horror techniques, like stuff that you would see in the original The Omen or The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby. And it did a really good job at making you feel immersed in the time period that the movie takes place in. And they use those techniques to build suspense incredibly effectively. There's some jump scares in the movie throughout that are a little cheap and I didn't really work for me, but the scenes that were dedicated to just building very quiet suspense were chilling. There's one scene in this movie, one shot in this movie that is, I think, one of the most terrifying images I've ever seen in my life. Like, I was frozen to my seat. My jaw literally dropped when I saw this shot. It was so effective and so good, and just thinking about it right now is sending shivers down my spine. The movie is also incredibly well-paced. It's about 2 hours long, and again, that's one of the reasons that I was kind of dreading going into it. I thought that it might overstay its welcome a bit, and it really didn't. It did a really good job at very quickly, thrusting you into this environment, thrusting you into this story of this character that you're following. And once it, takes off, it just continues to build and build and build up all the way up until the finale. And it never lost my attention. I was always captivated by what was happening. In terms of the couple of things that didn't really work for me, there are quite a few digital shots in this movie, CGI shots in the movie. and they were a bit noticeable, and it did take me out of it. One in particular that's at a very pivotal moment near the end of the movie that I think kind of took away from the impact of what you were seeing. But there are a lot of really great practical effects, like practical gore in this movie that were incredibly hard to watch, but the few times that they did use digital effects did take me out of it. Also, there were a couple of attempts at plot twists in the movie, and I saw all of them coming. It wasn't really surprising, but I'm okay with a movie being a little bit predictable as long as it executes the character's reaction to these plot twists in an effective way. And I think that the movie really did. I think that our lead's reaction to, the events that transpire in the last act of the movie are really what sell it. And so even though it's a bit predictable, it doesn't ruin the effect of the movie at all for me personally. So, even, one of the couple of things that I could nitpick about this movie that didn't quite work for me, still, wound up working for me by the end. It just maybe not in the way that the filmmakers intended. So yeah, all in all, I think that this was a really great, effective horror movie that pays tribute not only to the original movie, but classic horror in general. But it has its own voice. It never feels derivative of those movies. It feels very much as a movie that was inspired by those original movies and wants to tell its own story. So yeah, that's about it for this one. If you saw it, please let me know what you thought about it down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.